Okay, everybody, I am so excited today because I have with me Aya Furukawa, who plays Natsuki in the Midnight Club. We're going to be talking spoilers about the whole season. Make sure you watch the show first and then come back to this interview. How you doing today, Aya?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. I love the gaming chair you got. You look all ready to go for this. It's an honor.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
I wanted to bring up, just starting off, there's so many crazy things that happen with Natsuki in this story, but I really love episode 1 and the story she's in the middle of telling with all these crazy jump scares. So it's really cool though that we see Natsuki scaring Spence in the story in the street. How did you pull off this scene on the street with the multiple versions of Natsuki?
Right. Yes, we did have, I think, three other body doubles. So everyone was dressed up as ghost version of me. But even before then, we spent a couple days doing some stunt rehearsals, specifically for Chris as Spence. He basically had to learn how to fall so that, he wouldn't hurt himself on the pavement. And for myself, it was just a matter of like learning kind of the blocking of the whole thing. So a lot of it was just done by piece though. So it wasn't really too much for me to have to memorize or anything.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you get to see a bunch of people playing the ghost version of you. That's really cool. And the ghost version you just came out awesome, especially with the makeup too. So
Oh
really
yeah.
cool stuff. But one of my favorite moments is actually right after you kind of are in the middle of telling the story and you see that she gets to slam the table and scare Sandra here. Was that ever improvised? It comes off so well. Did you get to kind of have fun with that a bit?
Oh my God, I wish I improvised that, but no, it was totally scripted. We just had to make sure that the kind of timing of that was clean. We had to do a few takes of that because, if I'm anticipating it too much, it kind of loses the point of like the screams. So it was kind of just that sort of setup.
Yeah, no, you do a killer job, not only with that, but when you have to crawl on the table and also scare Spence, just
Mhm.
really great. And I love to it's always great about Flanagan shows is that you can go back and rewatch and catch more. And on my second rewatch, there's a lot I caught with Natsuki. And one of the things was in episode 2, we see Natsuki's working out, reading her story that we'll see later on Road to Nowhere to Triss.
Mhm.
So we don't know much about Triss. So, but for you as an actress playing Natsuki, did you kind of make a backstory for Triss and Natsuki's relationship that we didn't see on screen?
Oh, absolutely. Like there was a whole kind of backstory I had for Triss, especially because that scene between me and Triss and Mark, when I'm first telling the story, was actually one of the audition scenes that I had. So
Mm.
during that, I kind of built a whole backstory that Triss, was kind of the first person who introduced me to Brightcliff, like in the sense of she was the one to give me the tour, and she was probably the one to also bring me into the Midnight Club and was kind of the warm welcome that, she brought, especially because I think Natsuki herself can be like a little anxious or, she obviously has some like insecurities and stuff. I think Triss was someone who really brought comfort to her and stability and being there in the group. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I totally think that sounds accurate too, because for Natsuki to open up in such a personal, deep story like that, it must
Mhm.
mean a lot of trust with Triss. So I also like to, in episode 3, we learn more about Natsuki, and that at Family Day, we learn her father passed in the war. She mentions though this picture that she has of her father the day before his ambush is important to her. Why did you see that specific picture important to her?
I think that's just one of the last photos of her dad kind of, alive. It was one of the last ones that were taken. And, being a military brat, basically, with Natsuki, she would have moved around a lot. She probably wouldn't have much of a community. And her dad was probably not around as much. So I think that's, kind of one of the few connections she has, one of the few things that she has to still hold on to this like memory of her dad. So,
Yeah,
mhm.
no, and I really like that answer, and it adds so much to the character of Natsuki. And it's interesting. what I love about this storyline with Natsuki through the show is that more and more is getting added to her character little by little each episode. In episode 5, we kind of see relationships kind of forming with her from our angle, and we see she winks at Amesh in episode 4. Was she just losing patience with him at this point? Like, did she ever believe you make the first move, or is she just kind of someone who kind of takes what she wants kind of thing?
I think at that point, she has been staying at Bright Cliff for I think 3 months, which was introduced in like episode 1. But I think she was kind of just losing her patience with Amesh. I feel like Natsuki, she is a person that takes charge and she initiates a lot of the engagement between Amesh and Natsuki. But she still wants some sort of initiative from Amesh and some sort of, just to know that he's interested. But he's a bit of a wuss about going about that. So yeah, it was definitely a matter of patience being broken at that point. I was actually so nervous to do that scene because first of all, I have to be like really smooth. And I'm like, God, I don't know if I'm that kind of person. And also just like winking on camera. I was like, I've never winked on camera. I'm like, what if it looks awful? What if I don't know how to wink, I mean, and I just blink instead. But
yeah, no, that's great. No, it was a great wink too. Props. So also to episode 5, it perfectly leads into now we get to see you play Becky in Amesh's story. So it's also interesting too, because even episodes before that, we see you appear as different characters in the other club stories. So what was your favorite like other character to play, and maybe any fun stories from set on those days? Because it looks crazy.
Oh yeah, so much happened during those times of shooting. I mean, I gotta say, like, Teresa is definitely like my favorite because the whole storyline with Road to Nowhere was really centered on my character and me, and it was very personal and stuff as well. But besides Teresa, I think cheerleader Patty was my favorite. Playing the main girl was really, really fun. Especially with like the long wig. I've never had like long hair like that before. So everyone kept saying that when I'd put on the wig, I'd become another person. Like something just possessed me. And I'm just like really playing it into the whole like the cheerleader aesthetic, the queen bee kind of stuff. So
yeah.
it was
No, I think that's awesome too
fun.
and I think it's awesome about you and the whole cast is that you guys are able to pull off so many different types of parts too, which is really impressive. So also a big moment on rewatch I noticed too was in episode 6 when we're seeing this ritual happen for Anya, that the sacrifice that we see Natsuki is choosing to give is something from the car that we know what ends up happening with her in that car, but that she almost died in that car. Do you think, though, she ever considered her father's dog tags we always see her wear for that sacrifice? Because that's what was kind of running through my head.
I think so, because it is a very significant piece to her. She wears it, and every single episode, in every moment. I think besides when she's asleep, she has it on her bedside. But that's a tough question because I think she probably used the card keys because that was probably something that was on her mind, and it was something that she's never shared to anyone in the group. But the dog tags, I don't know, at least me as a person, and maybe not speaking from like Natsuki, that just seems too precious to let go of. Even, for something like that, it's the last piece of her dad that she has with her all the time. So it's like, I don't know how much I'd want to let go of something like that for sure.
Yeah, that's like the item that if she dropped in the fire, she might go grab it right away and regret.
Immediately regret it. And I think, it would be just too much for her emotionally to like do that.
No, for sure. And you just mentioned earlier too, the Teresa episode, Road to Nowhere, right? Where we see her play Teresa. But this is the big Natsuki episode. It's brilliant, and so much as your performance. And I like too that they decided, the writers, to have Natsuki just tell this to Amesh. I think it made it so much more personal and hit better, but it's dealing with stuff like depression, suicide. So when you first read this episode in the script, were you nervous about something like this? Is it something that makes you toss and turn at night before you had to film it? Or do you kind of just embrace it and like, okay, I'm ready, let's do this?
Oh, absolutely. Like it was something I was really nervous about, mostly because it is, even though it's part of the story, it's a very real thing that
Mm,
affects people day to day in their everyday lives. And it's a hard topic to come, you know, to bring up, to talk about, and also to do right, to do justice
mm,
to. I think, we really wanted to be sensitive to, everyone who has experienced this. It's not like a fake diagnosis. It's like real. It affects everyone in their everyday lives. I know, to Julia, who was one of the writers of that episode, for her, that was a very personal story as well. So there was a lot of heart put into that. So yeah, I was definitely nervous and scared of doing it, but I think so long as I, did my research, so long as I put my heart into it and myself, I was kind of at ease about it. So I'm glad it turned out the way it turned out. So
yeah, it turned out great. And I'm wondering too, as an actress, just for people who act too and do this as well, when you start getting in how you're going to approach it and reading the script, what is it like then when you got to play around with some Flanagan All-Stars here with Henry Thomas and Alex Esso? Did you guys kind of have to get all on the same page then on like what Freedom Jack and Poppycorn really were, what was where you guys were even like in what reality? Like, did you guys have conversations about it, or you kind of just meet and let it all kind of hit each other?
we did kind of just meet and, I let them, obviously it's not my position to tell them what to do or anything. So they brought themselves to it, and, they did a splendid job as Poppycorn and Freedom Jack. They're amazing, veteran actors. So all I could do was kind of just sit there and take it in and, try to give back as much as they give me. But yeah, like Alex was very sweet. She was very encouraging, and Henry is very funny. So we had a good time with that. But no, there wasn't any real like discussion prior, but I think the characters were pretty straightforward in the script anyways, as kind of the angel devil on your shoulder kind
Mm.
of situation. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was cool also to see you get to play Freedom Jack and Poppycorn for a bit
oh
as
yeah.
well. Just
That
adding
was so
to
much
your
fun.
roster of characters. Yeah. No, great job on that too. And I do want to just commend you though. The to me, you delivered one of my favorite lines of the show so beautifully when Natsuki says, I thought I wanted to die, but then I survived and realized how much I wanted to live. What is your process like as an actress to get to a place to live in life? Because half of that's the writing, but the other half is you delivering that perfectly. How do you get there? How do you get to there emotionally?
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, in terms of getting there, it's hard to say. I mean, Natsuki herself and like her background as a character is so much, I think, me when I was younger. So, a lot of that wasn't something that I had to dig for or search. It was more
Mm,
so, my experiences in my life, like, struggling with mental health stuff as a young teenager, and like, how overwhelming the world can be at that time. So I think just thinking back on like those moments, or, making sure I'm bringing kind of myself and my authenticity and like what, my truth of my experiences to that moment was just what that was. I really didn't know what that scene would have turned out to be in, my preparation. I try to like do as much research as I can, try and like, do all this prep, but in the moment you just kind of let go and just see what comes up naturally, and try not to like suppress it in any sort of way. So
sure. Did you have to do a
yeah.
bunch of takes of that? Was that something you had to do a lot, or is it like,
No, no. I think, one of the producers, Adam Fasulo, he was very kind to say, if this is too much in the moment, we can always take a break and step away from, what was going on. Cause yeah, it was a very heavy topic, but, we only did, I think, a few, like maybe 3 or 4 takes of each take and
wow.
stuff. And, it can be very intimidating with like, some of like the dolly pushes towards my face. I'm like saying this monologue and stuff, but I gotta say, like Sorian is such a tremendous scene partner that he made it easy, as someone to like, express all of that too. So, you know,
Sure. Yeah, I love that. And also just talking about collaborating like you're talking about with the actor of Amesh, also, is there anything, because like Mike Flanagan is so popular now. He is got so much credibility in the horror world. People respect him. He's a horror genius. But you get this privilege that not many people ever get to say, that they get to work with him. So is there anything you learned from working with someone like a Mike Flanagan?
Something I learned in particular. I mean, one of like the pieces of advice was just to like play a lot more and to like make my own choices. This was like the first time I've ever been able to like play, obviously a lead character like Natsuki and someone who's
Mm,
so well rounded. I felt a little lost at times of like what am I supposed to bring? What am I, you tell me what I need to bring is always my
mm.
approach for being on set. But a lot of that he mentioned like whatever suggestions you had, it was very much a collaborative process, which was something that was really new to me, to kind of bring my own ideas and kind of play around sometimes on set. So that's kind of something I learned, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. And
Mhm.
that makes complete sense, that that would be kind of the vibe on set. So awesome to hear that. And the good news for, fans are going to be obsessed with you now. Aya's going to be back though in the Flanagan verse on Netflix with Fall of the House of Usher. Is there any tease or just anything is going to be crazy you can kind of give us about it?
Oh geez, I wish I could, tell you more about Usher, but all I can say, it's like, I think all I can say is that it's like a kind of rock and roll. It's a lot. Like it's gonna be extravagant. It's gonna be, yeah, very interesting, very different from Mike's other work as well. So,
Oh,
but still with
interesting.
like the Mike Flanagan touch, of course. But
Love
that
it. I can't wait for that. So in the meantime, though, everyone watch Aya just crush it in the Midnight Club now on Netflix. And like I said, rewatch it. Just keep rewatching it. You'll catch so much more stuff, especially with Natsuki, and watch this incredible performance. Aya, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope to talk to you in the future.
yeah, thank you.